Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. In today's video, I'm doing some French country thrift flips using the new IOD Summer release. For my first project, I'm going to be working on this silver, I believe it could be resin tray, and I'm going to prime it first with Paint Couture's 2-in-1 primer in grey. I'm using grey because that's what I have open, but I'm going to do one coat, let it dry for about an hour, then come in with my second coat and let that dry for several hours. I'm then going to be using IOD's brand new bows mould. Now this design has two different sizes of bows and it has the tail ends of the ribbons as well. I'm going to add some cornstarch to the smaller of the bow designs, and then I'm going to work my air dry clay into the mould. And you can see I'm sort of following the shape of the bow and pushing and working that clay into it. And then I'm going to use my fingers to start pushing out the excess. That micro rim is definitely a really big help here. It helps you get a much cleaner edge. I'm then going to begin to flex the mold, helping that clay to release. Then I'm going to flip it over and start to bend that mold back, and gravity is going to help me get my casting out. I'm going to be positioning the bow on the center parts of the tray, and then I'm going to start casting some of the other pieces of the ribbon. I did end up casting the larger ribbon tail designs, as I felt like this was a better scale for my tray. So I'm going to be putting this casting on the right hand side of the bow, sort of stretching it around the tray, and then adding the other one to the other side. I'm going to be doing the same thing on the other side of the tray, and then I'm going to add some wood glue to the back of my castings and put them in place. Now my clay is still wet. You want to do this before your clay sets so that you can mold it to your surface. Once all my clay castings were glued down, I let them dry overnight, and the next day I came in with Paint Couture's Buttercream chalk paint, and I'm going to be applying 3 coats of this creamy tone over the entire tray. And I'm being really careful with how much product I add around the castings so that I don't get little pools of paint. Once my 3 coats of paint were completely dry, I took out IOD's brand new Rose Botanical transfer. This is an 8-page transfer full of gorgeous florals, lots of different sizes. You've also got some lovely script writing that you can use and layer. And honestly, this is definitely going to be one of my new favorites. The colors are just absolutely stunning. So I'm going to be picking a design to go in the center of my tray. This is the one that I decided on. I'm just going to put it in the center and do a bit of a crease where I'm going to have to cut. The grid lines on the IOD transfers are really a big help here as well for working out where I'm going to cut. I'm also going to be separating the text from my designs. I don't want that much text, and I also want to be able to position the writing exactly where I want it to go. I'm then going to peel the backing off, and I'm going to then press the design in the center. Again, the grid lines are a big help with this. I'm then going to use the transfer stick that comes with the transfer pack, and I'm going to go over the top of the entire design to get the whole thing stuck down. And then once that's all stuck down in place, I'm going to pick a corner and start lifting that plastic up as I am rubbing. And you can see how easily these transfers adhere to your surface. I'm just going to work my way around, gently pulling that up and rubbing and transferring that image as I go. Once the image is transferred, I'm going to cut off a smaller piece of the carrier sheet and use that to rub and burnish my design down, making sure it's all in place. And then I am going to add some of the text down in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm then going to be using Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in Satin to seal my transfer and the entire tray. Once my sealer is completely dry, I took out Paint Couture's Van Dyke Brown Glaze, and I'm going to be really working it into the details from the bows mold. I'm really focusing on the crevices, and I really feel like the glaze is going to highlight the beautiful shape of these castings. So once I've finished adding it, I'm just going to work in sections. I'm going to grab a wet wipe and start wiping back some of the excess. I don't want this to be too dark, but again, I want it to highlight the details in this mold and give my piece more of a aged and worn, sort of shabby look. So I'm going to continue to wipe that back until I'm happy with the look, and then I'm going to repeat the same process on the rest of the outside of the tray. You can see I haven't gone in heavy at all in the center. What I'm going to be doing is using the wet wipe to pull some of that glaze into the center while still keeping it a bit lighter. I'm then going to go in and start dabbing with the wet wipe that I've been using. This is going to help create some age spots. When that was dry, I took the brush that I used with the Buttercream chalk paint and I'm offloading most of the paint, and then I'm going to go in and start doing a little bit of dry brushing just on the bow details, just to bring a bit of lightness, to add a little bit more depth to my project. I'll also go around the outside edges of the tray and repeat this as well. When that was dry, I went around the edges of my bows with Paint Couture's Bronze Luxe Metallic. I don't want to get full coverage. I want the edges and the curves to be highlighted by this beautiful metallic, but in a subtle way. Finally, I took out IOD's Vintage Textures stamp. This is the crackle stamp from that collection, and I am using IOD Permanent Black Ink, and I'm going to randomly press and lightly press parts of the crackle stamp over the inside section of the tray, and then I'll use a wet wipe to pull back some of that product to soften the look. And here's a look at our finished tray. I love how this turned out, and I am obsessed with IOD's new bows and rose botanical transfer. I think they go perfectly together. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. For my next project, I'm going to be using this wood blank that I thrifted for $2, and I am going to be using IOD's new Persephone Mould. Now, this is a new design. It's a lot thicker, and I am going to dust it with cornstarch. You can see it's a lot deeper as well. And then I'm going to start working my air dry clay into the design. Now, you want to make sure that you have enough in there so that the design doesn't sort of collapse in on itself. So definitely make sure that you are going up to that outside rim. Once I'm finished pressing that clay in and making sure it's nice and compact, I'm going to flex the mold and then flip it over, and then start to peel that mold back to let my casting release. This gorgeous design is going to be the centerpiece of my project. I'm then going to take out IOD's new Felicite Mould. This is, again, an absolute favorite. These are a lot thicker. It has some wonderful, deep, detailed floral designs that we're going to be using today. I'm going to dust it with cornstarch. Again, this just really helps your clay to be released a lot easier. And then I'm going to start working my air dry clay into the floral that I want to use first. And then I'm going to start pushing that clay out. And again, these are a lot thicker, so the molds are going to be a lot taller on your surface. There's going to be more depth to them. And this one I'm going to position underneath my Persephone casting, and I'm just going to continue to cast the florals from the Felicite mold until I am happy with how it's looking. Ultimately, I want it to have a floral frame around the outside, and also some lovely florals to go underneath the Persephone mold. This one here is a bit of a longer design, and so it is going to be perfect for creating a frame around the outside of my project. I'm going to be casting a few of these to make up the border of my project. So I'm just going to continue to cast those beautiful florals until I have enough for the section underneath the Persephone mold, and until I have enough for around the border. And then I am going to be using some wood glue to adhere all of my pieces in place. Again, I am doing this while my clay is still wet so that I can bend and manipulate them to suit my project. When I was creating this piece, I definitely took inspiration from some of the cameo designs that I've seen, and I really feel like these molds just work perfectly together. If you are someone who doesn't like cracks, you can go in with a wet wipe like I am now, and perhaps a water mister, and you can smooth out some of the fine lines and cracks that you are seeing if that bothers you. I wasn't too careful about this because I actually like the aged look that this gives. I let my castings dry overnight, and the next day I came in with Paint Couture's Duck Egg chalk paint. This is a beautiful light blue, and I am just going to be painting the wooden background that you can see behind my castings. I'm not too worried about going up onto the castings that we've glued down because I will be painting over those, and I'm also going to be adding that paint around the exterior sections that you can see behind the castings as well. I ended up doing 2 coats of this colour to get the coverage that I wanted. Once the duck egg was completely dry, I took out Paint Couture's Simply White chalk paint, and I'm going to be going over the top of all of the castings. Now I had to switch between a larger brush and then a smaller brush so that I could get into all of the delicate details and tidy up the areas where I had gotten some of that duck egg blue. Again, very inspired by cameos, and I was seeing a lot of blue and white combinations, and I just really loved the simplicity of that sort of a look. So I'm just going to continue to work my way around the project, going over the top, and I only ended up doing 1 coat. Next, I took out Paint Couture's Oyster Pearl Luxe Metallic, and I started adding it over the top of the Persephone Mould first. Now, I wanted to bring some shine, a little bit more elegance to this piece instead of it just having a flat white. But as I was doing this, I decided that I really wanted to highlight more of the details before I went in with the Oyster Pearl anywhere else. So I took out Paint Couture's Weathered Wood Antiquing Glaze, and I'm going to go around the project and add it over the top of the castings. Now, I'm wiping back a lot. I don't want the weathered wood to really tone the duck egg that we put down, but again, I want it to sit into those lower points, into those details, to highlight the details in these pieces. They are just so gorgeous, and I really wanted to have them be the star of the show. So I'm going to go over the top of the Oyster Pearl that we added. It is dry, and I'm adding some of that weathered wood. I'll then wipe it back, and you will see how much of a difference that has made. And I'm then going to go back in with the Oyster Pearl over the top of all of the white sections to bring back more of that bright white, tone down the weathered wood, but still have it sitting down in the details so that you can see all of the features that these castings have. And here's our finished cameo-inspired wall art. IOD's Persephone and Felicite molds are just so beautiful. I can see myself using these a lot in the future. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. For my next project, I'm going to be using this hardcover book that I thrifted, and I'm going to prime the surface first with Paint Couture's 2-in-1 primer in grey. This is quite a slick surface, so I want to make sure that the surface is ready for paint and that I am covering up any of the text that I don't want to show through. I'm going to do 2 coats, let them dry completely, and then I'm going to be using Paint Couture's Buttercream chalk paint. Now you can see I do have a purple paint down that I added, but I did end up changing my mind. I wanted to go for a more neutral color for this project instead. So I'm going to be doing 2 coats of this beautiful buttercream over the top of the entire book. I then took out IOD's brand new Gilded Etiquettes transfer. This is a 4-page transfer full of gold style labels and script, and guys, this is just stunning. I've never seen anything like it. It's definitely a new favorite with so many possibilities. They've even put text in the background sections, so no space in this transfer is wasted. You're going to get a lot of use out of this one. So I'm looking through and I'm working out which design I'm going to use, and then I'm going to start cutting it out. I don't want any of the background script or text for this project because I am going to be creating an older style book cover, and I just want this particular design to be the focus. So I've peeled the backing off and I'm going to position it in the center, and then I'm going to start using my transfer tool to go over the top of the entire design. Now, something that I will say with these is that if you rub a bit too hard in certain sections, sometimes some of the background design can come off with it, but honestly you can sort of scratch that off if it's a bother to you, but it just ends up looking like some beautiful gold leafing. These are so beautiful, so detailed, and so vibrant. As I said, definitely a new favorite. So I'm going to continue to rub and transfer that design down, and you can see I'm going slowly, making sure that all of it's down, and then once I am finished with that, I am going to just sort of gently press that down. I'm then going to take this gorgeous scroll design here and I'm going to trim that out. Again, I'm going to remove any of that background text, because this is going to go on the spine of the book, and I just thought this was just so perfect for those old world gilded books that you see, and I just love that I can create my own by using these beautiful IOD transfers. So I'm going to continue to rub until I have all of that transferred down, and then once I'm finished with that, I am going to take out my gloss Extreme Guard top coat. It's definitely recommended that you seal these with a gloss or a satin top coat to help maintain that sheen, and 2 coats is best so that you can make sure you don't get any streaks. When that was dry, I took out IOD's new Ephemeral type stamp. Just a reminder, when you get your new IOD stamps, pull off that plastic backing and then grab some 220 grit sandpaper. I'm just lightly going over the top, swiping it over the top of the stamp in 2 directions. This helps to prepare the stamp for ink, and you only ever do it once. I'm then going to peel off one of the text sections. I've got it on a piece of plastic backing, and I'm using IOD's permanent black ink, and then I'm going to position it on the back of the book cover and then press down, and I'm lightly moving my fingers over the top, always one hand in place, and then I'm peeling it back. I then decided to cut off some of that script that's in the background of the Etiquettes Gilded Transfer, and I'm going to put that up the top just to tie in the gold from the front and the spine of the book. I will of course be adding another clear coat over the top of this when I'm finished. And here's a look at our finished gilded book. How stunning are the new Gilded Etiquettes transfers? I am obsessed with these. I'll definitely be using them a lot in the future, and that ephemeral type stamp just goes perfectly with it. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. For my next project, I decided to keep with the book theme, and I'm going to be making some bookmarks, or you could even just call these tags. I have a bit of cardstock that I'm using as a guide for size, and I'm just cutting out some fabric that I thrifted, and then I'm going to iron it flat. As you can see, I'm going to be making 3 different bookmarks. For my first one, I'm going to peel off some of this text and I'm going to put it on a plastic sheet there, and then I'm going to be using IOD's permanent black ink, and then I'm going to be positioning it over the top of my fabric. I always use a bit more ink when I'm dealing with fabric. I'm also pressing a bit harder than I would on any other surface, and then I'm peeling it back. I'm then going to be using some of the Rose Botanical transfer. I'm just going to cut that out, and I'm going to be grabbing another part of the ephemeral type stamp first before we add that, and I'm going to be pressing that underneath the text that we've already stamped down. I'm just moving my fingers around, one hand always holding it in place, and then I'm lifting it up. I'm then going to cut out the Rose Botanical transfer that we trimmed, and then I'm going to peel the backing off and position it in place. I'm layering this over the top of the text, and then I'm really rubbing that, applying quite a bit of pressure, and then I'm going to pick up that plastic and start pulling that back. It definitely helps to have something firm behind your project. I'm doing this on top of a wooden work surface. Add some cardboard or something underneath it if you're having trouble. I'm then going to cut another part of the transfer off so that I can layer it in the top left-hand corner. Once I have that transfer in place, I'm going to trim my bookmark to size a bit more, and I'm going to fray the edges for a bit more of a vintage look. And I'm going to be repeating the same process for each of the bookmarks, fraying those edges and trimming off the frays that I have created. I'm then going to use a hole punch to make a hole in the fabric up the top. Now, it didn't go all the way through, so I did finish off that with the scissors. Again, this is going to be something that I do to all of the bookmarks, so I won't be showing you each time I do it. I'm then going to be using Paint Couture's Decoupage Medium in Matte. I'm adding that over the top of some cardstock, and then I'm going to be pressing the fabric into that. This is just going to provide a bit more support. For my second bookmark, I really liked how the stamps were already laid out on the ephemeral type carrier sheet there. So I'm just going to ink up some of the designs in that bottom left-hand corner there that you see, just keeping them in the exact same configuration, flipping them over and then pressing them into my fabric. For the third bookmark, I'm going to be using some of this script writing. It looks like it's from a letter, so I'm going to ink up part of it. Obviously, we're working with a narrower surface here. I'm going to press that down. Again, I've just kept it on the actual sheet that the stamps come in. And then I'm going to ink up the other side of that script letter and position that underneath. I then took one of the postage stamp designs. I'm inking that up, and that's going to go up the top in the center. I then decided to cut out this rose from the Rose Botanical design, and I'm going to cut off some other smaller pieces of that and start layering it over the top of the stamped lettering there. And again, just cutting it apart. Remember, you can do this, you can cut them apart to suit whatever project you have. Here I'm trimming off quite a bit of the leaves because I feel it will cover up too much of the script. So I'm just cutting them to suit whatever project I'm working on. And I love the smaller scale that IOD have given us with this new Rose Botanical transfer. There's large designs, but there's also smaller ones. This stamp set and this transfer are going to be perfect if you like to do scrapbooking as well. Now I'm going to add some finishing touches back to our first design, and I'm going to be adding this lovely little brass key, and I also have a little round bead that I am going to be gluing to the top section where we have made that hole. This will just sort of tidy it up, give it a bit more elegance. I'm also going to be using some green velvet ribbon for this one. I felt like the green tied in really well with the Rose Botanicals. I've threaded the key through, and then I'm going to thread the ribbon through the top part and then tie a knot. For the second bookmark, I am using that same style of bead to glue over the top of the hole up the top and pressing that in place. And then I am going to be adding some red velvet ribbon. I felt like this tied in well with the rose designs. And then I am going to add a bit of lace and thread that through the key and tie that on. I felt like this one had a bit more of a sort of shabby chic feel to it. For the third bookmark, I found a bead that was a little bit more intricate. We're adding that one to the top, and then I'm going to be using this sort of plainer twine sort of inspired ribbon and a slightly larger key because we didn't do any transfers on this one. We kept it a little bit simpler so I can have the key design be a bit bigger. And here's a look at our finished bookmarks. This was a quick and easy craft, but definitely techniques that you could add to a larger project. Let me know what you think of these in the comments. Finally today, I'm going to be working on this ceramic canister here. I love the shape, I love the color, so I'm not going to be doing too much to it. And I'm also going to be working on this lovely white jug. As I said, I love the color, but I want to make it look a bit more like transferware. So I'm going to be using IOD's new Delft Traditions Azure Paint Inlay. This booklet is full of so many gorgeous pages of designs. Some of them are border designs, some are labels like this one, lots of gorgeous florals, and honestly, I can see myself using these so many times over. For the canister project, I'm going to be using this beautiful floral design here. So I'm going to trim that out. I'm going to be putting that on the center design. Now I have already taken these outside and I have sprayed them with a gloss clear coat just to give the surface a little bit of tooth. And then I'm going to cut out this lovely little rabbit label design. I'm going to be using Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in Gloss Top Coat. I'm going to lay down a generous coat. Remember, I've already got my spray clear coat on this, so it has something to grab onto. And then I'm going to press my paint inlay into the wet gloss top coat. I'm gently pressing that down and smoothing that out the best I can. Because it's a curved surface, I am going to have some breaks in the design, but I think it will just look like wear. So I'm going to continue to press that down, make sure that as much much of it is pressed into that wet clear coat, then I'm going to mist it, and then I'm going to use a wet wipe to further press that moisture down into the paint inlay. I'm then going to be repeating the same process with that little jug, laying down a generous coat of the gloss top coat and then pressing the paint inlay down. Unfortunately, I didn't get this perfectly straight, but that's okay, it will just look like age. I'm going to wet it really well. That's also going to help the inlay conform to the shape of the jug, and then again using a wet wipe to apply some moisture and some pressure. I let it dry completely, and then I am misting the ceramic canister first and then dabbing that off a little bit, and I let it sit for 30 seconds, and now I'm going to start pulling the inlay back gently. As I was pulling this back, I was definitely really impressed with how well the inlay transferred into the gloss clear coat. And this is just a game changer because that means you can add an inlay to something while keeping the original surface. So repeating the same process for the little jug, wetting it, waiting about 30 seconds, and then peeling the design back. I then took these outside once they were dry and sealed them with that same gloss clear coat. And here are our finished transferware inspired pieces. IOD's new Delft Traditions Azure Paint Inlay is absolutely stunning and perfect if you like to create blue and white home decor. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's video and that you are as inspired as I am by the beautiful new IOD Summer release. Let me know if you had a favorite project from today. If you enjoyed today's video, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and share it out. I want to say a special thank you to IOD for sending me some of the new release. I have already had so much fun creating with these wonderful new products. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our videos. You can find most of the products used today, including the beautiful new IOD summer release items, on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Thanks for watching.